Welcome to the channel, and welcome to the Perseus sector on the far reaches of the galaxy. Welcome to the planet of Novus Chestrensis, and welcome to this, the first game in my Grimdark Future solo play campaign. The planet of Novus Chestrensis has been the target of an Orc invasion. Already the Orc battlecruiser has orbited the planet, laying waste to the major population centres on the northern continent of Novus Chestrensis Prime and the southern continent of Novus Chestrensis Secundus. The cities have been devastated, their planetary defence forces have been decimated, and now Orc ground forces are beginning to make planetfall, looking for a scrap. So in this first game of the campaign, we're going to see the Orc invaders going up against a small detachment of what remains of the human defence force on the planet of Novus Chestrensis. Let's go and meet them, because we'll be seeing them throughout the campaign. We'll also be seeing other factions throughout the campaign, but initially we'll just concentrate on the Orcs and the human defence force for this first game. Here we have some of the survivors of 1st Platoon, 3rd Company, 5th Infantry Regiment of Novus Chestrensis. They are being led by Captain Myers, who is a company leader. He's equipped with a pistol and an energy sword, and he's been upgraded with the Munitioneer Focus Fire ability, which means before he attacks he can select a friendly unit within 12 inches, and that unit will receive AP +1 the next time that unit shoots. Now, if he is attached to a unit that's got a field radio, he can extend that to 24 inches as long as the unit receiving the command has also got a field radio. And because of that, he is going to be joining up with a unit of veterans, Myers Misfits. It's a veteran squad of 5, they're stood right behind him. In there's 4 rifles, a grenade launcher and a field radio. To the left of the screen, Captain Myers has managed to scrape together some infantry to form an infantry squad. There are remnants of 2nd Squad and 1st Squad of the 1st Platoon of the 3rd Company. In there we've got one model representing an NCO. He is equipped with a pistol and an energy sword. We've got a grenade launcher, 8 riflemen, and also an autocannon weapons team, as well as a field radio. Towards the back we've got 3rd Support Squad. They are a weapons team of 3 crews, all equipped with mortars. And then, last but by no means least, we have got Silent and Deadly, a sniper squad. 5 snipers, standard as they come, all equipped with sniper rifles. And that is 740 points of human defence forces. And we'll be following them throughout the campaign, seeing how they get on with repelling the Orc invaders. Speaking of which,
this is Boss Brainbasher. He's an Orc leader, and he has got a twin carbine, an ultra claw and an attack beast, and he's been upgraded with Master Shooting Frenzy, which gives him and his lads relentless, so any 6s to hit result in extra shots. And because of that, he's got his lads with him. He's got a squad of 10 Orc mob called Brainbasher's Boys, and they's all got carbines. To the right of the screen, or is it the left? The right of the screen, there's another Orc mob of 10. One of them lads has got an ultra claw and the rest has got pistols and close combat weapons. At the back we've got the Fly Boys, jetpack Orcs, 5 of them. They ain't got nothing special, they's all just got their standard kit. Over on the other side, the one that isn't the left or the right, the one that isn't got the 10 Orc mob, we've got 5 commandos, sneaky gits. One of them has also got an ultra claw. And then we've got the runts, a goblin herd of 10, and that is
740 points of Orc Marauders. And we will be following Boss Brainbasher and his lads and see how they progress throughout the course of the campaign, trying to crump da humies. So without further ado, let's get on to the first battle of the campaign. And we're set up, and the HDF won the deployment roll-off. So they got to place the first unit, and because of that they will get the first activation on the first turn. And they have deployed with their mortar squads in the middle of their deployment zone, Captain Myers and his Myers Misfits veterans next to him. Over here we've got 311 squad, and then we've got the snipers up on this building. I'll come back to that in a second. Should have said we've got 4 objectives. Got objective 1 in that corner of the large ruin in the centre. Objective 2 is on this corner of this main intersection. Objective 3 is on the corresponding opposite corner of the main intersection of the city ruins. And then objective 4 is also in the large ruin in the centre. So 4 objectives. For the orcs, Boss Brain Basher is deployed in the middle with his lads. The other orc mob has deployed in the open, ready to make a charge down onto this objective. The grots, the runts, are cowering behind that building, possibly going to sneak onto objective 3 as and when the opportunity arises. And then we have got the sneaky gits, the commandos. They deployed and have scuttled forwards into that corner because they are scouts. The snipers are scouts, and there was another roll off to see who deployed their scouts first, and the orcs won that roll off, so they deployed their commandos, and then the HDF deployed the snipers. And it may feel a bit gamey because they're up a bit on this building and they've got quite a nice clear line of sight down to, he says, bashing the scenery around, down to Boss Brain Basher. Here he is. But what I'm going to say is, because of the angles that they're at and these pillars, only 4 of them can actually draw a bead on him at the moment. So this chappie here can't actually see him because he's tucked away in the corner. So that is the deployment. I should have said the jetpack orcs are deployed in ambush. Now, because this is campaign, before we start the first turn, we need to roll to see what special objectives each army has got. So we'll start with the HDF, the Human Defence Force. Number 4 is recovery. Be the first player to recover from a unit pinned. And for the orcs, number 1, mastery. Have 1 friendly unit in each table quarter at the end of the game. So those are the special objectives for each army, and if they complete them, then they receive a bonus of 50 points to spend on reinforcements at the end of the game. Right, at the start of the turn, with this being a campaign game, we need to roll the dice of fate to see if there's going to be a random event. So on a 5+, there'll be a random event. That's a 3, so no random event in turn 1. The HDF get the first activation because they won the deployment roll-off. 311 squad have advanced onto objective 2, and they're going to shoot at that orc mob. I did contemplate putting the snipers in on Boss Brain Basher, but they're out of range. Only just by about 1/8 of an inch, but they are more than 30 inches away, and the range of a sniper rifle is 30 inches. Likewise, the mortars, at the moment, only 2 of them were in range. So, yeah, decided to go for the infantry squad, advancing and shooting at the orc mob. Now, there's 3 of the riflemen are out of range, so we're going to roll the rifles first. There's 5 of them, and they'll be hitting on 5s. And that is 3 hits. Orc mob has got a 5+ defense, and that is 1 save, so 2 of the orcs are dead so far. Next up we'll do the grenade launcher, 1 shot hitting on a 5+. That's a miss. And finally the autocannon, 3 shots hitting on 5s. And all 3 miss. For the orcs' first activation, they're going to activate the unit that has just been shot at, and enraged at their fallen lads, they's going to rush towards objective 2. Captain Myers and his veteran squad have advanced, and before they shoot, Captain Myers is going to issue his focus fire command onto the mortar squads, and in the meantime the veterans are going to shoot at the group of orcs. They're all in range, but the corner of that red building is in the way, so I'm going to say the orcs get the benefit of cover. We've got 4 rifles, they'll be hitting on 5s, and that's 2 hits. Saving on 5s, 1 save, and then a grenade launcher hitting on 5s, misses. But that is another dead orc. The orc commandos have run through that gap in that corner wall into the main ruin in the centre and ended their move on objective number 4. So it was a rush move, and because they are commandos they get the Strider ability, which means they ignore the movement restrictions for moving across difficult terrain. I'm saying those craters and things in the centre of that ruin are difficult terrain because obviously they're full of rubble and debris. Next up, the mortar teams are going to shoot at the orc mob that's currently depleted. Captain Myers quite literally focusing fire on that orc mob, so this will be 3 shots hitting on 5s, and all 3 miss. Goblins are crazy, but they're not stupid. They've just heard the mortars fire off, and so they've decided it's now probably as safe as any time to dash out of cover and scarper towards objective 3 and capture it for Boss Brain Basher. The only unit left to activate for the HDF is the snipers, and like I said, there's only those front 4 can really see anything. Boss Brain Basher hasn't moved, so he's still out of range, so the snipers are going to shoot at the currently depleted orc mob. They've picked out individual targets for themselves, so I'm not going to target a single model. The rules simply say for sniper you may, and when it's just standard models in the unit I don't see the point. So yeah, 4 shots going in. Because they are sniper, they will be hitting on 2s. All 4 hit. They are AP1, so this is going to be 6s to save. And there's 3 6s. So only 1 orc dies. Ah, the infamous green dice and their 6s. However, I will say it's the biggest, baddest one with the Ultra Claw, seeing as he is at the front and he's obviously the biggest target. So out of a unit of 10, there's still 6 of them left, so they don't need to take a morale check yet. And finally, Boss Brain Basher himself has rushed into that little alcove in the lee of the ruins, capturing objective 1 because he heard those sniper rifles go spanging into his mates. He saw the bullets hit that big orc in the other mob, and so he wants a scrap. He doesn't want to get shot by no cowardly little Umi, so yeah, he's ducked around the corner as he makes his way towards the Human Defence Force lines. So that is the last activation for turn 1. Let's take a look how things stand on the battlefield. So at the end of the first turn, the HDF is in control of objective 2, but objectives 1, 4 and 3 are under control of the orcs. Some pretty ineffective shooting from the HDF in the first turn, but on the flip side, no casualties inflicted on the HDF yet because all of the orcs were rushing forwards because they were out of range. Now as we go into turn 2, the HDF will get the first activation because they finished activating first in turn 1, and what Boss Brain Basher needs to decide is he going to call in their flyboys yet? Is he going to bring in his jetpack orcs or save those until later in the battle? First up, at the start of the turn, the Dice of Fate. Is there going to be a random event on a 5+? No. And also at the start of turn 2, Boss Brain Basher has ordered his flyboys to come in, and they have come down right on the edge of the table near objective 2. The HDF are going to start things off with 311 squad, and because we've got multiple types of weapons, we are allowed to split fire by type. So what I'm going to do is special weapons, i.e. the autocannon and the grenade launcher, are going to go into the depleted Orc squad at the top of the screen, and the small arms, the rifles and the pistol from the NCO, are going to go into the jetpack Orcs that have just arrived. Starting things off with the grenade launcher, one shot hitting on a 5+ is a miss. 3 shots from the autocannon hitting on 5s. All 3 miss. And the pistol and the rifles are all the same profile, so we'll roll those all at once. 9 shots hitting on 5s. That's only 1 hit. 1 save of 5+ for the jetpack Orcs. Fails on a 1. So one of the jetpack Orcs dies. Over to the Orcs. Before they take many more casualties, that unit of Orc mob is going to charge squad 311. So there's 6 left in the squad. They normally get 2 attacks each with their close combat weapons, but because they're furious they get an extra attack when they charge. So this is going to be 18 attacks hitting on 4s. That results in 7 hits. Infantry squad have got a 5-up save. 7 dice. Ooh. So that's 4 saves and 3 go through. The infantry squad now gets a chance to fight back. First of all, we've got the energy sword from the NCO. 2 attacks hitting on 5s. It's 1 hit, which was a 6. Which is rending, so that would be -4, but the Orcs are going to be saving on a 6+ anyway, even with the just standard -2 from an energy sword, which fails, so 1 Orc dies. I neglected to pile them in. Right, so now the rest can fight, and there are 8 regular close combat attacks hitting on 5s. 2 more hits. 5s to save. 1 saves. 1 more Orc dies. So 3 infantrymen died and 2 Orcs died. So the Orcs won the combat. So the infantry squad needs to take a morale test. They are quality 5+, and that's a fail. So the infantry squad is pinned. They don't rout because they're not below half strength yet. And the Orcs have to back off an inch. Now, those of you who have seen my bat reps before know that the morale rules are the ones I always get confused over. And looking at the morale test rules, it says for melee results, units in melee don't take morale tests from wounds. Instead, they compare the number of wounds each unit caused, and the unit with the lowest total losses must take a morale test. So therefore, I'm interpreting that even though that unit of Orc mob is now below half its starting strength, because that's as a result of melee and they won the melee, they don't take a morale test. Activating next for the HDF, Captain Myers is going to order his own squad of veterans to focus their fire on those jetpack Orcs before they can charge in on the beleaguered infantry squad. Let's see, we've got 4 rifles in there. They'll be hitting on 4s. That's 1 hit. So this will be AP1 because of focus fire, so a 6-up save needed. That's a 1, so one of the jetpack Orcs dies. And then 1 shot from the grenade launcher hitting on a 4. What is it? That's a 4. Now it's blast 3. There's still 3 living models left in the unit, so that will equate to 3 hits. So 3 more saves of 6s. And that's 2 more 6s. Green dice and the sixes. So there are still 2 jetpack orcs left in that unit. However, they are now below their half their starting strength, so they need to take a morale test. So on a 4+, they're good. That's a 3, so they are pinned. Over to the orcs. The orc commandos are just out of charge range on the mortar teams, again by about half an inch. So what they're going to do is they're going to advance to the edge of those ruins and then take some pot shots with their pistols. So they're now in pistol range, which means they'll be in charge range for next turn. So the pistols are coming in, 5 shots hitting on 5s because they are quality 4+, but they are bad shots. And that is 3 hits. 3 5-up saves. 1, so one of the mortar teams will take 2 wounds because they are tough 3. Having spotted the threat to his mortar teams, Captain Myers has ordered the snipers to try and take out the orc commandos. Now I've repositioned the snipers slightly so all 5 of them can draw line of sight onto the commandos. Now the commandos have got stealth, so they're -1 to hit. They're also in cover, so I'm going to say that's cumulative, so that's another -1 to hit, so -2 to hit in total. The snipers all have the sniper ability, so ordinarily hitting on 2s, so now they'll be hitting on 4s. So 5 shots, hitting on 4s, and that is 3 hits. These are all AP1, so 6s to save. None, so 3 of the commandos die, and the remaining commandos will need to take a morale test because they're below half strength, so 4+, they're fine, that's a 5. So having done their bit for Boss Brainbasher, the goblins, having captured objective 3, are going to leg it into safety behind the cover of that wall. The mortar teams are going to fire on Boss Brainbasher and Brainbasher's boys, who are behind that red building next to objective 1. They do have indirect fire, so they can bring it down on top of their heads. 3 shots hitting on 5s. That's 1 hit. Now these are blast 3, and there's more than 3 models in the unit, so that will be 3 hits on the target. 3 saves of 5+ needed. That's none, so 3 of the orcs in Brainbasher's boys get taken down. There are no more HDF units to activate, so the jetpack orcs are simply going to unpin themselves and mark themselves as activated. And now Boss Brainbasher is going to charge round the corner, guns blazing, into 311 squad. And when I say charge round the corner, I mean, for rules purposes, they advanced, but you know, dramatic license and all that. Boss Brainbasher has got a twin carbine, that gives him 4 shots. Everything is in range of 311 squad. All the carbines have got 18-inch range. And I say, Boss Brainbasher has got a twin carbine, so he gets 4 shots. There's 7 orcs left in Brainbasher's boys. They get 2 shots each, so this is a total of 18 shots. Now then, they are quality 4+, but they are bad shots, which means they hit on 5s instead of 4s. However, I'm going to say that because the other unit of orcs is in the way and obscuring more than half the unit, even orcs aren't so stupid as to try and gun down their own kind unless they've got nobody better to shoot at. So I'm going to say they're hitting on 6s. I'm going to give the HDF the benefit of cover. So we'll be hitting on 6s, but any 6s will be extra shots because of Boss Brainbasher's Master Shooting Frenzy ability, giving them Relentless. And there's 2 hits, which are 6s. So we'll roll those, another 2 dice. No more extra hits, so there's 2 hits in total. All shooting for you. 2 5-up saves needed. 1 saves, so another infantryman falls, and logically the only one they can see is the field radio, so I'm going to take the field radio away. Now the infantry squad is not yet down to half its starting strength, so it doesn't need to take another morale check yet, even though they're already pinned. because all that would happen is if they failed a morale test, they'd just be pinned again. So at the end of turn 2, the Orcs still hold Objective 3 and Objective 1 and Objective 4, and now Objective 2 as well, because 311 squad is pinned and pinned squads cannot contest objectives. So at the moment the Orcs are controlling all of the objectives halfway through the game. The HDF has inflicted some quite heavy casualties on the Orcs, so the Jetpack Orcs are down to less than half their starting strength, as is that Orc mob and the Commandos, and even Boss Brainbasher's mob has taken some casualties. But for the part of the HDF, they have lost some members of 311 squad who are now pinned, and one of the mortar teams is in a bit of a bad way, but other than that they're still at full fighting strength. Can they continue to hold off the Orc horde and take some ground? Let's find out in turn 3. Turn 3 Dice of Fate. Is there going to be a special event on a 5+? No! So again, the HDF finished activating first in the previous turn, so they get to activate first this turn, and I think I'm going to have to simply unpin the infantry squad, because otherwise they're going to be in a world of hurt. But of course they weren't the first side to recover from a pin. The Jetpack Orcs did that in the previous turn, so the HDF have failed their special mission for the game. Over to the Orcs, they're going to keep up the pressure, and the Commandos are going to charge the mortar teams. The Commandos are furious, so they get an extra attack each with their melee weapons. One of the Commandos has got an Ultra Claw, so he'll get 3 attacks hitting on 4s. That's all 3 hits. These are AP4 from an Ultra Claw, so natural 6s needed to save. There's 1 6, but 2 go through. So that will kill off the injured one and put a wound onto another team. Then 3 attacks from the other Commando, hitting on 4s. 2 hits, or 6s. No AP on these, so 5 up saves needed. None, so that will kill off that second mortar team. The remaining mortar team gets to pile in. Technically they do this after the charge is completed, but they get 2 attacks hitting on 5s. That's 1 hit. 5 up save needed, which fails. The Orcs won that combat. They killed off 2 of the mortar teams, whereas only 1 Orc died. So the mortar team will need a 5 up morale test, which fails, so that last remaining mortar team is routed because they're below less than half strength for the unit. And now that surviving Commando can move up to 3 inches because his melee opponent has been vanquished. So he's going to remember what his secret mission is and head to the left of the screen. The HDF only have 2 units left that can activate. That's Captain Myers and the snipers. So the snipers are going to shoot at those 4 remaining Orc boys in the mob. I've repositioned them slightly, but regardless of how I do it, I can only get 4 of them to actually see the enemy. There's those upright struts and things in the building getting in the way. So this will be 4 shots hitting on 4s. That's all 4 hit. These are AP1, so natural 6s to save. Not that that seems to be a problem on these green dice. Ah, there we go. So all 4 of those boys are eliminated by sniper fire. The 2 Jetpack Orcs are going to charge 311 squad. Each model in 311 squad can pile in up to 3 inches. Like other Orcs, Jetpack Orcs are furious, so ordinarily 2 attacks with their close combat weapons, they get an extra attack each on the charge. So 6 attacks hitting on 4s. And that's only 2 misses, so 4 hits. 4 saves of 5+ needed. That's only 1, so 3 riflemen are killed. 311 squad, now definitely below half the starting strength. They do get to fight back, and because they're no longer pinned, they can hit on their 5s instead of natural 6s. 2 attacks from the NCO's energy sword. Both miss. And then 4 regular close combat weapon attacks from the grenade launcher, the rifleman, and the heavy weapons team, hitting on 5s. 2 hits. This could be enough to kill off the orcs. 5 up saves needed. Both the orcs die. Now then, this is interesting because the HDF lost 3 men in that unit, in that melee, and the orcs only lost 2, but the orc unit was completely wiped out. And the morale rules don't seem to go into that in any kind of depth. It simply says whoever, what does it say? They compare the number of wounds each unit caused, and the unit with the lowest total loses and must take a morale test. So what do we reckon? Because the HDF killed off the enemy unit but inflicted the lowest number of wounds. However, I'm going to say, because they survived and the orcs didn't, I'm going to say they won the melee. I think that makes sense to me. Let me know what you think in the comments below, but I'm going to say they win the combat. Boss Brainbasher is now going to charge 311 squad. Boss Brainbasher has got an Ultra Claw, ordinarily 2 attacks, but because he charged, he's furious, he gets 3 attacks. All 3 hit. These are -4, so natural 6s needed to save. No, so the 3 remaining individual models will die because the heavy weapons team is tough, and because it's tough, it has to be removed last. And all of these attacks happen simultaneously, so even though it looks like some of the orcs are now out of range, they all attack simultaneously. Each of the carbine armed orcs has got a close combat weapon, which gives them 1 attack, but again, they are furious, so they get an extra attack, which means they get 14 attacks, hitting on 4s. That's 6 hits. 6s are nothing special, so just 5 up saves. You need to make 4 of these to keep it alive. No, the autocannon team is taken down, and because their foe was defeated in melee, Boss Brainbasher can move up to 3 inches, consolidating their hold on objective 2. That just leaves Captain Myers and his veteran squad. Captain Myers is going to shoot at the last remaining Orc Commando with his pistol, which is down there off screen, and everybody else is going to shoot in at Boss Brainbasher. So we'll do Captain Myers first. 1 pistol shot hitting on a 4+. Oh yeah, and he's issued his squad obviously the focus fire to get an extra AP1. He misses with his own pistol. 4 rifle shots at Boss Brainbasher. 3 hits. 6 up saves. 3 orcs die. And a grenade launcher hitting on a 4+. That's a hit. There are still more than 3 models in the unit, so this will be blast 3. 3 6-up saves needed. And there's 2, so 1 more orc dies. So Boss Brainbasher and Brainbasher's boys are now below half strength, so they need to take a morale check on a 4+, which they pass on a 5. And the last activation of the turn, the Grots have just simply huddled a bit closer together in the lee of that building, trying to keep out of sight. I did contemplate whether or not they'd be spiteful enough now that the HDF has been somewhat decimated. Well, more than decimated, because decimated means you've lost 10% of your army and they've lost 50% of theirs. But yeah, whether or not they'd be spiteful enough to keep rushing forward. But I think Grots, their cowardly nature kicks in and overrides their spiteful nature. They can sense that the battle's almost over, so they are just going to keep their heads down, stay put, making sure no Umi gits get onto objective number 3. So turn 3 was quite short and brutal. All of the mortar teams have been taken out. There's only one commando left. 311 squad has been wiped out. The orc mob that was attacking them has been taken out. The jetpack orcs have been taken out. Brain Basher's boys have been taken down significantly. But all of the objectives are still technically under the control of the orcs. As we go into the 4th turn, I suspect this is going to be an orc victory. Turn 4, Fate Dice. Is there going to be a random event on the last turn of the game? Yes! It is going to be number 65. All high numbers coming out now. Number 65 is Critical Transmission. Select one random army which immediately gets 1 VP. So we'll simply do a roll off. Grey dice for the HDF, green dice for the orcs. It's a tie. HDF, they get 1 victory point. Once again, the HDF get to activate first. The snipers finally have Boss Brain Basher in their sights. And once again, I'm going to say only 4 of them have actually got him in their sights. So it's going to be 4 shots specifically targeting Boss Brain Basher because they are snipers, hitting on 2+. All 4 hit. 6s are nothing special. These are AP1. 6s needed to save. None. He is tough 3, so that will take him down. But because we specifically targeted him, the rules say we treat him as a unit of 1, so that 4th shot does not go through onto the other orcs. Now then, the hero rules say that he is deployed as part of the unit, so therefore I'm interpreting that to say that because he was part of Brain Basher's boys, the unit now needs to take a morale test, because again they've taken wounds and they are less than half their starting strength. So they need a 4+, and that's a 2. So Brain Basher's boys are now pinned. That's my interpretation of the rules. Let me know if you agree or not in the comments below. Should also say at this point that even at the start of turn 4, it was not possible for the HDF to win this game now, because all 4 objectives were under the control of the orcs, and we've only got 2 units left for the HDF. One of them is high up in a building, and to move out of it they would have to count their vertical distance downwards, so they wouldn't have been able to get onto an objective. So yeah, the orcs are going to win this battle, so we're just going to play it out to see what happens with the units, because it is a campaign. The HDF could of course just simply withdraw. The orcs could withdraw, but why would they simply withdraw when they're winning? So we're just going to play it out, moving on to the orcs' next activation. The last remaining orc commando can see Dayumi Officer, so he is going to charge the veteran squad. He is furious, he's got an ultra claw, he gets 3 attacks hitting on 4s. They all miss. And again, forgot to pile in the defenders, so we'll do that now. I always forget to do that in close combat. I always forget to pile in the defenders after they charge. It's because I'm used to playing a certain other game system where you pile in at the start of that particular unit's fight, which is not Grimdark Future. So we'll pile in with the veteran squad. 2 attacks from Captain Myers' energy sword, hitting on 4s. That's 1 hit, which is rending. So this will need a 6-up save, which fails. Captain Myers cuts down the last orc commando, and they then consolidate and form up, turning to face what remains of Boss Brain Basher's boys, who will now be fired upon by Myers and his misfits. Myers' pistol is actually out of range, but we've got 4 rifles going into them. Myers has told them to concentrate their fire, focus their fire, so they get an extra AP1. 4 rifle shots hitting on 4s. 2 hits. 5-up saves. Nope. 2 orcs die. 1 grenade launcher hitting on a 4. And those should have been 6-up saves. The grenade launcher misses. There's only one orc remaining in that unit. He's already pinned, so it's pointless taking a morale test. And all that orc can do is simply unpin himself and mark himself as activated. The goblins are simply going to carry on loitering there, definitely keeping out of harm's way. Even if they were to move into these ruins, they're only armed with pistols with a 12-inch range, so they wouldn't be able to get close enough to fire on any enemy units. So that will be the end of the battle. So at the end of the battle, all 4 objectives are under the control of the orcs. For the Human Defence Force, the snipers and Myers Misfits are all intact unit-wise, but the only units intact for the orcs are the Cowardly Grots. One solitary remaining member of Brainbasher's Boys is on the table, but this is a campaign game, so we need to see what happens to those units. In terms of how they performed though, I think the orcs did a very good job of just pushing forward and pressurising the HDF. Yeah, I think the units that I took for the HDF kind of encourages a static gun line with the mortars and the snipers. It only gives you 2 units to actually push forward and get objectives. So as the campaign progresses, Myers is going to have to try and get more mobility in his army to be able to run up and get objectives. Yeah, with the orcs, I just think they need more bodies to soak up more incoming fire. Having those jetpack orcs that can come in later in the game if necessary and jump on objectives is useful. So yeah, we'll see how things pan out in the post-game sequence. The orcs won the battle, so that gives them 2 victory points for the campaign, and because they won they get 50 points to spend on extra units. They only spent 740 points of their 750 point budget in the starting army, so they've now got 60 points to spend on additional units. The HDF got 1 victory point from the random event, and they gain 150 points to spend on extra units for reinforcements. They've also got 10 points left over from their starting allocation, so they've got 160 points to spend on new units. Should also say that neither army managed to achieve their special objective for the game. The orcs failed to have a unit in each table quarter at the end of the battle, and the HDF were not the first army to recover from a pin. Checking for casualties, the HDF lost 311 squad and 3rd support squad. So we'll roll the die for 311 squad. That's a 2, so they have recovered. The unit recovers and may be used without further penalties. 3rd support squad, likewise, also recovers without further penalties. Loads of casualties to roll for the orcs. It's only the goblins who haven't got to roll for, and that's because you roll for every unit that was either destroyed or to reduced to below half its starting strength. So that does include Brainbasher's Boys, even though they still had 1 model left on the table. Let's start with the man himself, Brainbasher. Did those sniper's bullets do irreparable damage to him? Nope, he's good. I should say we are doing permadeath, so any rolls of a 1, which is a dead result, that unit is removed from the game. The commandos, the sneaky gits. Talked that up, didn't I? That's a dead unit of commandos. They were going to get experience points as well. The flyboys, the jetpack orcs. Ooh. 6. Natural talent. Unit recovers and earns an XP. Brainbasher's Boys. They're good. And then finally, the gangers. The other orc mob. They're also good. Right, experience for the orcs. The goblins gain an experience point for surviving the battle by doing what goblins do best, i.e. cowering in a corner. The flyboys will get an experience point for natural talent for recovering from their injury, and Brainbasher's Boys will get an experience point for finishing off 311 squad. Now I ummed and ahed about this because Brainbasher was part of the unit, but it wasn't his attacks that finished off 311 squad, so I wasn't sure to give him the experience or not, but working on the basis that he deploys as part of the unit and his attacks were part of the attacks that went in from Brainbasher's boys, I'm going to say he gets an experience point as well, because ultimately all of those attacks happened simultaneously in effect. So I'm going to say Brainbasher also gets an experience point for killing a unit. None of that is sufficient for any of the units to level up though, because it's only 1 experience point each. And like I say, the commandos would have got an experience point for killing the mortar crews, but they died. XP for the HDF, starting with Silent and Deadly, the snipers. They killed off the remaining 4 orc mob in the gangers, so they get an XP for killing off a unit. They get an XP for surviving the battle, and they also get 2 XP for killing Boss Brainbasher, or at least taking him down in the battle. Now, Boss Brainbasher, I'm going to say, doesn't count as a unit on his own to get an extra XP because he was part of Brainbasher's boys at the time. That's the way I'm interpreting it. Let me know if you do it differently. But I'm saying 2 points for killing a hero, 1 point for killing off the orc mob, 1 point for surviving the battle. So 4 XP in total, just 1 XP away from levelling up and getting an upgrade. Captain Myers and Myers Misfits both survived the battle, and I'm going to say they both killed off that last remaining commando in the same way that I'm giving Brainbasher an XP for helping finish off 311 squad. I'm going to say that Myers Misfits get an XP because they were making their attacks on that commando, even though it was actually Captain Myers' attacks that finished him off, simply because I rolled his dice first. So they're going to get 2 XP each, 1 for surviving the battle, 1 for killing off a unit. And then finally, 311 squad, they didn't survive the battle, but they did finish off those jetpack orcs, so they get an XP for killing a unit. 5th step is upgrading units. I'm not upgrading any of the existing units, so we're moving on to step 6, which is recruitment. And for the HDF, I've recruited a unit of 10 conscripts and a special weapons team of 3 flamethrowers. So that's 150 points. I desperately wanted an ogre squad, but they're 170 points and I only had 160. That was really sad and really annoying. But yeah, I also desperately needed more units for the HDF to be able to push forward with. So I could have got 2 conscript squads, but I figured some more firepower, literally firepower, is probably not a bad thing either. The orcs only had 60 points to spend, which doesn't get you much. So they have recruited Odgit. He is an orc leader who has been upgraded with Psychic 1 to make him a shaman. So that is the addition for the orcs. So that's the end of game 1 of the Novus Chestrensis campaign for Grimdark Future. That was a lot of fun. What I do is I edit these videos as I go at the end of each turn in the hope of catching any mistakes that I might have made. And yeah, I've had a lot of fun playing around with sound effects, and yeah, it's been interesting. It's taken longer to do the editing by inserting the sound effects, but let me know in the comments if you enjoyed it. I think it's added a little bit extra to it. Also had a lot of fun with the intro animation. But yeah, please join me for next time, where who knows what else is lurking on the planet of Novus Chestrensis. Thank you very much for watching. Please continue to like, comment and subscribe, and until next time, God bless.